going live. Hello and welcome to another episode of Loose Canon Show. We got a little bit of a late start because we had some. I have a bad feeling that it's going to start playing audio out of the stream here. My stream's not even loading, which is not a great sign on its own. But got a late start because we had some audio issues where my computer likes to reset all the inputs and outputs to default, and that's not what it should ever be. So there's always like a triple, quadruple check when we have that happen. It's super fun, I promise. So this week, and can you keep an eye on the Twitch just to make sure there's no bots? Because I have to keep it closed.
Yeah.
So this week we are going to be talking about the raid lore book, the Rubicon. And have you looked at this lore book at all? Have you read it or just like kind of glanced at it?
I read it in clips and phrases. I didn't
Uh-huh.
read the thing thoroughly though,
Yeah.
because yeah.
Yeah, I like having my first time experience like digesting this like with you and to like kind
Yeah.
of to feel it out and be like to come to the conclusion live. I think that's fun. It's fun for me at the very least. I don't know if it's fun for everyone listening or watching, but the
Yeah.
immediate thing, and I'm sure you notice this too, the immediate thing, these are all the rivers in Tartarus, aren't they?
Yeah. It appears that way.
Yeah, because like with the exception of the first two entries, Acheron, uh, I don't recognize that as a Tartarus river, but I imagine it is because then it's Styx, Phlegethon, Lethe, and the one I don't know how to pronounce. You know, EUNO.
EUNO.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. Do you know?
You know. You know how to
Um,
pronounce
no, I'm asking if you know how to pronounce it.
I think it's
Yeah, it's the River of Memory. Uh,
which it's kind of hard to get to that one if you know your mythology.
which is, just I mean, we'll get more into it as we go, but it's really interesting. Oh, Cocytus is one that's left out. Isn't that
Yeah. That
weird?
one's the big one. That's the big one that everybody is hung up on because it's also the name of some other stuff.
Yeah.
Upcoming stuff too. Possible upcoming stuff. But I won't go into that one.
Okay. Interesting.
Because just remember that word for like when we go into the next season.
Well, I mean, we've
It
already
talks
had
to this.
the Cocytus. Wasn't that the derelict ship's name that Callus
Yeah,
flew?
A113. Remember that?
Oh no, that's what it
The
was. A113. It had the
the Disney,
keyhole.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Disney reference.
Yeah.
Or I should say what was that studio? Pixar.
Yeah.
Pixar reference.
The Pixar studio. That's right.
Yeah.
So it's it's been another 2 weeks. How have you been?
Good. It's it's cool in the mornings and hot in the afternoon.
Isn't that the
So
worst?
yeah. Well, right now it's great because it's 8:20 here. I guess it's what is it there? 10, 11,
Oh, the
12, 13.
time. I was like 8:20. What the
Yeah.
fuck? Yeah, no, it's 9:30 here. I'm an
It's
hour.
yesterday. It's yesterday there.
I mean, I'm ahead of you.
Oh, it's tomorrow. It's
Well, I mean,
tomorrow
it's an
there.
hour. It's an hour into tomorrow. Yeah. This is like edging. This is what it's supposed to be my favorite season of the year. I love autumn. I love fall.
Yeah.
Because it's cold without being like too cold. I've usually found, but it's like it only exists for like 3 to 6 weeks, and it's not like here's the time. It's like it moves with how the season decides it to be, and we are in that point where it's like in the morning it's 50 degrees, and then in the afternoon it's 75 to 78 degrees, and it's like
Oh my God, I wish.
no, that's awful. That's way too warm. I want it to be 50 degrees from beginning to end. Like that's like the perfect
Uh-huh.
outside temperature. Inside should be warmer, but the outside temperature should be like the high 50s, not the low 50s, like the high 50s, low 60s. That's where outside should be in my opinion. Uh
You know what I
but
really
yeah.
like? Because maybe this is because I'm a skateboarder, but I love dead cold weather, not like freezing cold, like just cold enough to where you see your breath and it
Uh-huh.
hurts if you slap your thigh,
It
but
hurts if you
no wind, like
Oh my
zero
god,
wind.
yeah. The wind makes it so much worse.
Yeah,
That years ago, me and my buddy, I slept over at his house like in the winter, and the whole plan was we were gonna have a whole day of skating, and like we woke up at like 5 in the morning, and it was like late November, and so like Thanksgiving break from school, and we went
yeah.
out at like 5 in the morning, and there was like frost everywhere. We were bundled
Oh
up, like we
man.
we couldn't even move. We were just like rigid on our boards, just like this was a
Yeah.
bad idea. Let's go back. We're not doing this someday. We'll come back at 9 o'clock
uh,
when it warms up.
it's so great though, because like when it's dry and no
Mm-hmm.
wind and it's cold, you can bundle up in all your gear, obviously, and it's just like
Yeah.
extra padding, so if you fall, you don't get hurt as bad. But also, it's like when you get hot and start to sweat a bit, you just you chill out and you start to cool off real quick because you know
That's
in
my
the summer
philosophy on it.
you can
That's why I
only
love the
get so
cold.
cold.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
that. That's
yeah,
that's why I love it because it's like, oh man, it's a little chilly. Well, let me put on my flannel that I enjoy wearing, and it's like, well, now I'm a little warm. Let me take
yeah,
off my flannel that I don't mind
yeah,
carrying, or I'll throw in my car or something. Like
yeah.
there's so many options. But in the summer, I'm just dying. I run hot naturally, so it is very bad for me, and various other reasons.
Sure. I mean, it gets so hot here sometimes you just can't do anything. You just like it's just like nothing can be done. You go out if you have work outside and you're used to it or whatever, it's
Hmm.
fine. But when we have these erratic weather changes and like
Hmm.
one day is great weather and you had a wonderful time, out
Yeah,
being outside working, whatever you're doing, and then the next day is a scorching hot day, you just can't get anything done.
yeah.
Now, if the whole week is scorching hot, you'll be okay. But
Yeah, it's the shift of it. So let
yeah,
me actually ask you, because last night I went to my first haunted house of the season. I'm hoping to go to a few more uh
yeah,
throughout October. Do you
yeah,
really
that's your
have
thing.
haunted houses in Texas? I might have asked you this before.
Yeah, we have some of the coolest haunted houses in Texas. Texas is pretty cool, man, because we have I don't go to them, but we have a lot of like pretty violent looking ones,
Yeah, no, actually,
especially
I knew that. Because I looked it up
yeah,
once because there was a chance that I was going to be down there in October, and I was like looking
uh,
them up, and a number of the ones, like the first ones recommended to me, were like, "We will touch you. You might
yep,
get small cuts," and I'm like, "Small cuts? What the fuck?"
yeah, yeah. We also have haunted hayrides, which are kind of dumb, but
No,
they
those are so
always
great.
they always end up in like some barn or whatever or something. Like that's the running shtick, I guess is what you would call it.
Well,
But Texas is known for like stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? So
yeah,
everybody pushes it to the limit where you just have to have the most gory setting possible. So
yeah.
we have
That's not
and
that's
we have
lame.
several special effects people around here that are just
Hmm.
like from movies and whatnot. And this is also where they filmed The Walking Dead. So a lot of the people that were a part of that, they're a part of these haunted houses that spring up every year too.
That's
So some of
awesome.
these professionals will go and work at these haunted houses, the techs and whatnot, and those guys put on some really good effects. I mean, they can make people look like real, like
Yeah.
horrifically real, and you don't know if somebody just showed up on set or if the world really ended or not.
See,
Like
like
I start to question reality when it's zombies.
I, as you know, I'm a huge fan of haunted houses, and I love it when they're spooky. I love it when they're like really scary, but I also accept that they're never actually going to be really scary because I know I'm never
Yeah,
going to be in danger, and that's why I don't like the ones that are like, yeah, we might like cut you. It's like, no, you
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
won't.
yeah.
uh,
Yeah, well, because you could fall and like there's
well,
there's no way to
I
avoid
could
like
fall
a piece of
anywhere.
wood that yeah.
Yeah,
Well, but they're like there's wood that might have a splinter on it, or there's a nail holding up a board. You never
that's
know. Like
ridiculous.
somebody could trip and fall. And
Yeah, I'm not concerned about Final Destination scenarios when I'm walking through a haunted house. But like I
yeah,
love the like the artistry of it. Like I love the setting. I love how the actors. I love seeing how they position and like trying to like think like
yeah,
all that through like the meta stuff about it. And so
yeah.
the one I went to last night, it starts with a hayride, and there's like sections on the hayride where it will stop, and it's almost like a micro play, where like on the left side they have this thing happening, on the right side they have that thing happening, and it's just like
Oh,
the
that's cool.
people are screaming, and it's like people. I hear people complain about that wasn't scary at all. That was just so dumb, and I'm like, what do you mean? Of course it wasn't scary. None of this is scary. None of this is scary.
It's
Look at
supposed to be
that. Yeah,
entertaining.
it's
Yeah,
entertaining. It's fun. It's
yeah,
the
yeah,
vibe that you're getting from this. It's like you're inside a horror movie for like two
yeah.
minutes, and then you move on. And they're like, all they did was come and scream at us. And it's like, yeah. What did you think you were gonna get
Yeah.
here?
You want to die at the end or something?
Yeah. Uh but my favorite part of it
That's so
is
funny.
nearing the end. They have a section with clowns, and the
Oh no, no,
clowns
no.
come on the hayride. And so last night
Uh,
the clown came and sat next to me. He's like, "Can I sit here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And he had a head in his hand, and he would toss it to people. And I was like, "Oh, he's actually tossing it." He's like, it's not too slow." And then it's back in his hand, and I'm like, "The fuck? How did he do
what?
that?" I saw him throw it. Did they throw it back? I know they're not an actor. I know that this 9-year-old kid who's shivering is not an actor. Did he throw the
Uh,
head back? What happened? And I was like trying to watch him like through the fog and stuff that they had going on, and it was on a little bungee cord, and I was like, "That's the fucking."
oh
I've
yeah,
never
yeah.
seen that
That's
before,
funny, dude.
and I'm
That's
sure
funny.
other places have done it. I've just never experienced it, and I was like, that was the greatest thing, just seeing him like throw a severed head at people that just snaps back to him immediately, and then he's like, too slow, ha ha ha, and it's like walks on. And it's like just that. That's what I love. I love this season. But anyway,
Yeah, me too. This is my favorite. So, well, fall is always my favorite because it's like right when it starts to get cold. Like not cold, cold around here, but it's right when it starts to get cold and all the leaves are falling. Obviously, a lot of people like that shit, and
hmm
but but uh, uh, we have like really cool trails, and we go mountain biking them, and there's like leaves everywhere, and then of course like just the terrain around here is very comfortable to play in. So like there's a lot of outdoor activities we can go do at this time of the year that
hmm
we wouldn't necessarily be able to do during the like scorching hot summer, and then like in the
yeah,
springtime when everything's in full bloom and
and
everything's
wet.
raining. It
Yeah,
just
ugh,
sucks, right?
hate it.
Yeah,
The only thing worse than it being hot is it being wet.
yeah, yeah.
And that's why winter sucks, because it's cold and it's pretending to be dry, but it's actually very wet out.
Yeah, we don't get that. We don't get that snow that's like three
Yeah.
feet
Yeah, but
high
you get
and all
mud,
that
right?
junk. Yeah, we don't get. Yeah,
All right. Well, so this week, as I said, we're talking the Rubicon, and we also have for our lore card, it's actually the raid exotic, isn't it? Euphony?
yeah,
Is that how you
yeah.
pronounce that? Euphony?
Euphony, you.
Euphony?
I was saying euphony, but I don't. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's so funny that
I,
it's like it could very easily be mispronounced as euphony.
yeah,
Just like, euphony. uh,
you phony.
yeah. So how about you want to get into that?
Yeah, yeah. Let's knock out the lore
Awesome.
card.
So, brought to you from the
It
Destiny
kind of
Armory
goes in.
Defined is our weekly lore card.
Okay, cool. Um, so this one has an ornament too. So I did the ornament with this one. I kind of like quote tweeted it or whatever you want to call it. But the reason why I did that is because it's short, but they both tie together, and I have a feeling like this has to do with the whole overarching story plot where we're like being whispered to and talked to and sung to, and music of the spheres and vibrations of the universe and all of these things that somehow come back to like frequency and harmony and people talking to you from the great beyond or whatever.
hmm
I don't know. It's just it's an odd thing that's always present in Destiny, right? We have
Hmm.
ahamkara that try to appeal to us in certain ways that do things like whisper and auditory hallucinations. Then we also have the hive that learn these tricks from, by proxy, the witness technically. But they do the same thing. They talk to you in like, oh, bearer mind and junk like that. Like
Yeah, the
there's,
anthem theme.
yeah. So there's a lot of things that tie to this, but then there's other things too, like the Vex will do choruses and, songs that are similar and so like I get it. I understand what they mean by all of this. Like the universe vibrates on set frequencies, and if you can attune yourself to those frequencies, somehow you can unlock these rivers of energy, whatever, and become a conduit for these fundamental forces of the universe, technically. And then you, as a guardian, can wield these paracausal abilities that come from everything around you in space and time and whatever, right?
Hmm.
So that's big and heavy headed and whatever. But it's important to kind of think about those things when you're reading lore, because there'll be times when you hear references that directly come from music and you wonder, well, what do they mean by that? What's the significance about that? And so this one, being euphony, it's pretty cool. The weapon itself is pretty cool looking too. It's got like I don't know, this green, tangly strand looking energy coming out of the front of it,
Hmm.
but it's adorned with these like what I don't know if you like I guess I would describe it as like a blend of Nezarec with whatever the witness does
I would
ish.
I would call that more Lubraean
Okay,
textures.
Lubrian. Yeah, which could be the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could
Yeah.
be. Actually, that's a good point because I attribute that to Rolk, but like we don't know what Rolk looked like before becoming a disciple.
Exactly. And it seems that like all of the disciples of the witness all seem to have
Yeah, so
a
Lubraean might not be the
similar,
right
yeah.
word.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still like it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good word for it.
It's a cool
Uh
it's a cool, I guess, aesthetic is what you would call it, the way
yeah.
that looks. Yeah.
What were they called? The progeny? The people before the witness?
Yeah, I think so. It would be neat to see what the progeny and or the proto hive and or the krill and or the nautilus people, whatever they were called, and then like all of these different things that we don't really have a physical representation of, you know it would be cool to see that. Maybe Frontiers will expand upon some of those things
Mm.
going forward. Frontiers being the next great Destiny adventure, whatever.
So it's not
um
progeny. I just did a quick search on that, but there were the soul progeny, which I'm a little embarrassed that I forgot that. That those were the three minds in the Black Garden.
oh
The
yeah, which
Eshkatan mind,
technically I
Imminent mind, and the
yeah.
Primeval mind.
Yeah, which I guess would technically be a part of this, wouldn't it? Because
Yeah,
that would be the darkness changing the Vex to try to get at us.
yeah,
Yeah, man, this is weird because a lot of this stuff comes full circle like this, you know?
yeah,
Okay,
because
so
they're
anyway,
the progeny of the witness.
yeah, exactly. Okay,
Is
so
like what
back
other
to the lore
words say.
card. We
So
gotta
yeah,
get this one out.
sorry.
No worries, no worries. So euphony is the quality of being pleasing to the ear, or it's characterized by harmonious and melodious sounds like melodies, right?
Hmm.
That sound good to you. um, its contrast is cacophony, which we've heard that, which is a harsh, discordant sound. In literature, euphony enhances the aesthetic experience and creating a soothing auditory effect, right? So these techniques show up as like alliteration or assonance or the which could be like the careful selection of words which contribute to creating these euphonic effects. And so these are sounds, but they're buried in like language, communication, music, yada yada. And so they have these things. So like if you remember in school, alliteration was stuff like, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, right? It's like
Impressive.
it pops, right? Fluffy feathers floated freely. You can understand how these kind of like, they're fun. They play with your head a little bit, and then you kind of like get distracted by the pleasant, sounds that they make. But there is something else going on beyond that, which is like the meaning of the words or the sentence, and you may or may not be paying attention to that. And so my mind kind of goes to that when I think about how, here we are being kind of, I don't want to say duped, but appealed to by certain forces of the darkness, right? And maybe we need to listen a little bit better instead of being like lulled into a good feeling.
Mhm.
So anyway, whispering willows waved wildly, stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
there's assonance, which is a different form. So like the cat sat on the mat, or like the rain in Spain stays mainly on the plain. Those are fun because they almost sound like a modern day rap or something you'd hear in a song, like rhymes and stuff. You can get your little free flow going. The
Uh-huh.
tall wall stood gallantly, stuff like that. Just weird.
Gotta say, I don't know if
Um,
that's true.
um, so this one has an ornament, right? So that's what euphony is. But this one has an ornament, which is called a tritone. And the tritone ornament has what I would consider to be a Ivy. It's like the what's her name? Savathun's, hive brood, the ones that have the light almost.
The Lucent?
It almost looks like, yeah, it almost looks like the lucent brood to me,
Mhm.
but I could be wrong. Um, because it has the reason why I say lucent brood because it's adorned in white and it still has some of the green, but the shape of it looks very ahamkari. But I wouldn't go as far as to say it is a ahamkara. And so maybe there's something to that. The sight on it almost looks like one of Savathun's little windows that we used to have to run through, the doorways we used to have to run through to get like teleported into different areas, which is kind of
Mhm.
cool. But so tritone, um, what that means is a musical interval spanning three whole tones or six half steps, often called an augmented fourth or a diminished fifth, aka diabolus. This is known for its dissonant sound. The tritone plays a crucial role in harmony and tension resolution. It's commonly found in classical or jazz and rock, stuff like that. Uh, Historically, though, the tritone has a bad connotation because way back in the day, it was known as Diabolus in Musica, which means the devil in music, due to its settling pivotal element in music. So tritone's unique properties contribute to its frequent use in creating tension and drama within musical compositions. And you've heard tritones. I mean, every time you listen to a drama on a movie or like any kind of like suspenseful thriller or, even music that has to like, you know, grab at you, you'll hear these
Mhm.
tritones. They're everywhere. You just don't really pay attention to the fact they are tritones. But these tritones move throughout these three tones, which would be whole steps. And then we talked about it before, semitones, which was tied to, the Vex ship that we got back when we were talking about all that. But these semitones are half tones that go in between a tritone. And so a
Uh-huh.
tritone is this full step of unsettling notes that when played in the three pieces, parts, whatever, they bring tension. And I think it's funny because there's the reference to the devil in music, which if this is, an ornament that's supposed to talk about the hive or the lucent brew, it would make sense because of the Faustian bargain. And
Mm-hmm.
so euphony would be like what we were talking about, tied to the witness and the Libranian aesthetic, whereas tritone, which would have been the hive's aesthetic, or particularly Savathun's new aesthetic. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, huh, we're toying with some word verbiage here, but also showing you how the witness was able to influence the hive by proxy, the worm creation and the Faustian bargain, that they had to, take on these new forms through that. But after all of that's said and done, the traveler unlocked this new ability for the hive to latch onto, which was, bearing the light and becoming hive light bearers, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we have a tritone to worry about out there. Anyway, it's just neat how they play with these things and they bring it all around and wrap it up for you. And it's really cool how little things visually like this and their words that are used to describe them make paint and play within the bigger picture of the story narrative that's going on. I hope we continue to have these things. I don't want things to go away. I like stuff like this. I like it to continue like this because it just shows you that they actually care about what they're telling you. It's not just a throwaway story like some people like to say. It's actually there because it's going to continue. Maybe we'll get some, pretty horrific events coming up. Hopefully, I know the witness is defeated, but there's still a lot that could come from this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot that needs to come from everything. Like I don't know. It's kind of impossible to predict what type of story they're going to want to tell next, I think. And a part of that is fun. The like
Yeah,
this like absolute unknowing. That's pretty cool. But I also kind of get where it's like you want to know what you're going into as well. Like
right,
maybe it's not a
right.
story that you're actually going to be on board with. But I mean that's everything. That's every property that goes on uh beyond its original story point, like there's not a TV show that went on like when they have their concept and it's like, okay, we'll tell this story across like 2 seasons, and then season 2 ends and they're like, what now? And it's like, ooh, never mind, I don't I'm not into this anymore. I
Yeah,
hope I
yeah.
hope I hope Bungie does interesting things. I'll I'll always keep an open mind to it, but I don't think they're gonna drop. I think a big part of what they're doing is setting up this like kind of how do I phrase it? This like explanation of the powers, because a big thing I've seen was that the Saga of Light and Dark gives us all the info on the witness, which is great because we finally got to see the big bad and learn about the big bad and defeat the big bad. However, we're still just kind of then turning around and going, what the fuck is the Traveler? And so
Yeah,
we,
yeah. What the
uh,
fuck is the traveler?
and there's a lot of people that are like upset about that, and it's like, yeah, but there's more game, there's more story to tell, there's more things to learn. So I think it's very smart of Bungie to have like focused in, lock it in. We're doing the witness. We're gonna spice it up with some Traveler in it, like give you some more questions that will, they're questions today, but a year from now they'll be like the seed to an answer, and it's just like it just hasn't bloomed yet type of thing. I could see it going in that direction. And I think things like semitone shift, tritone, euphony, the introduction of strand and stasis as a whole, prismatic, like finding this like balance, potentially even new dark abilities, seeing the other side of what the Traveler is made of, and exploring that deeper. So I'd be very interested in that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I was a little bit there. I decided to search cacophony on Ishtar just to see what comes up, and most of it it's just used as the word cacophony, so it doesn't kind of really excuse me, call great attention to it.
Sure.
Because you said euphony is cacophony is the opposite of euphony, and if euphony is coming from the witness, it just made me wonder, like, well, does that mean that cacophony comes from the traveler? If euphony, because I'll put it back on screen so I can read it as well. Euphony, perhaps the final shape is not silence, it is a symphony. That means to me that the witness didn't view the stagnation of the universe as we view it, as that. They viewed it as a symphony where everything is in its perfect harmonious spot, doing its perfect harmonious action, and everything is perfect and in synergy, in euphony, etc. So is the chaotic aspect of the traveler cacophony. And the only entry I found was the entry from the book In Spiral, which wasn't that also a raid book from yeah, it was. Looking at this cover, it's absolutely the Nezarec raid. I can't remember what it's called.
I
Uh,
can't either.
uh,
I'm horrible at this.
it was Ron, Root of Nightmares, right? Root of
Mm,
Nightmares, I think it was.
yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right.
um where I like kind of skimmed through it because I was listening to you as well. It feels like it's from the entry The Dark Below. It feels like it's from the perspective of Eris talking about her time on Luna during the Great Disaster. She's kind of remembering it. And the final line says cacophony is almost a comfort, and it just feels so isolated, and this where I know more of darkness now. It is not violence, it is something more, something that hums and flows and resonates, knife or song by equal measures. I have not been able to bear the sound of silence since that time. Too long among the screaming hive, I thought once now. Cacophony is almost a comfort. And when you read that back to back with perhaps the final shape is not silence, it is a symphony. The darkness is a song resonates, not silence. Or I can not been able to bear the sound of silence since that time. It feels kind of it kind of feels like it goes together in my mind. What do you
Yeah,
think
like
about
it
that?
has a means to an end.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
nice. Wasn't there six rivers?
I'll tell you. Let me look it up.
No, I mean
Rivers
I'm
of the
looking at the
Underworld.
rivers right now, and I just could have sworn that there were six, and I cannot remember what they were all called. Oh, yeah,
Uh,
you know is not in here.
Interesting.
So is you know not a river?
You know is after the river where you get your memory. So that's the one I was saying. It's really hard to get to. So like
Oh,
yeah. So I guess it
okay.
would be technically the thing you walk through after the river, and it's your memories back. So wouldn't that be like if we were putting that into the perspective of destiny? Wouldn't that be like if that's tied to memory? Wouldn't that be the darkness?
Yeah,
It's
I mean
weird.
that's kind of what I was trying to say, because I have the list of the rivers here, and as we were going through, I was gonna like say like Acheron is the river of woe, which into which Cocytus and Phlegethon flowed. Charon ferried the newly
Yeah,
dead across the Acheron to enter the underworld, and I thought it'd be neat to kind of like go through that process as we read. Um,
yeah.
so there's Acheron here. We'll start reading now. I'll read Acheron 1. Unless there's something
Okay.
else that you want to say before we get started.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Everything is a question of survival. How do I live? How do I satiate my hunger, my thirst? How do I protect myself from predators? How do I shelter from the storm? For a long, long time, our people asked only this. We fought to separate life from death by as great a span as we could. Even when we had made our homeworld a garden of peace and plenty, the question of survival never ended, only changed. How do my genes, my works, Even my memories of me live on. The same question as always: how do I live? We solved the problems of deprivation, disease, age, memory loss, death. We weren't the only ones to find these answers, of course. Others followed into our footsteps or blazed on their own paths. If I was really the answer to the question, we wouldn't be here. If that was really the answer to the question, we wouldn't be here now, and neither would you. You're still trying to solve the problem after all. You fight and build and live and die, and always you struggle against your opposition. The predator, the parasite, the illness, the chance storm, the slow collective forgetting of your art and history, the death of a star, the heat death of the universe. You must live longer, be stronger, think quicker, and still there is something waiting to take everything from you. Always. Always. So you have to keep getting better and better until you are perfect, until you are and cannot be anything else, because there was never anything else, until you inevitably are the final shape. We didn't come to destroy you. Those poor short lived sisters, we did try to explain, but they never grew past thinking of finality as a game where only one could live. A misunderstanding, as useful as it is foolish. We see the universe more broadly. The final shape is more than a single life, a single thought. It is all encompassing, all embracing. It is everything. You are a part of everything, are you not? So now we have to come to ask you for your answer, the only answer to the only question. How will you live? So this is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
This being the raid lore book is theoretically one of the aspects of the witness talking to us before we destroyed them all and kind of scattered them to however whatever that
Yeah.
means.
Whatever that means. Yeah. We
the
severed it from
yeah.
it. Yeah.
The interesting thing is do you think this book will be one speaker or various speakers? Do you think we'll eventually see a new
I think it's
person?
going to be various speakers because I've heard of some of it.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what I've picked
That
up on.
tends to be how they do these books. I've always enjoyed that.
Yeah. This one is neat. This particular entry is neat because it kind of shows you what happened to the hive.
Yeah.
Like the witness that is the entity comprised of many whatevers.
God, what were
Um,
they called? Precursors?
yeah, precursor. Well, I think that's what we called them.
No, there was an official term.
Is there? Okay, yeah, I'm sure it's precursors then. So the precursors, kind of telling you, hey, it's funny when they put this in perspective because it's kind of like they're saying, well, you guardians are kind of the same thing as the hive,
Uh-huh.
whether you want to admit it or not. You're growing and living longer and getting these powers that we were helping to bless you with.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I like
yeah,
that line. Those poor short-lived sisters,
yeah,
Zyro, Sathona, and Alrash.
yeah.
No,
Because they
not
had short
Alrash.
lives and then they had to take on the worm bargain to live longer.
Yeah. We did try to explain, but they never grew past thinking of finality as a game where only one could live. So I get
Yeah,
just kind of just dashed apart the hive theology.
it's like
It's like,
you didn't do the
yeah,
assignment correctly.
you didn't get it. I was okay with you not getting it. I was very fine with you helping me achieve my goal, even though you
Yeah,
didn't get it. That's basically what the witness is saying here.
yeah. It's like the professor says, "Well, I'll give you a B minus."
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay,
Would you like
I'll read
to?
Acheron 2.
Yep. Acheron 2.
Okay, Acheron 2. In my past life, I was a gardener. Not that gardener. Don't be cheeky. No, I grew flowers, I tilled soil, I planted seeds and bulbs and rootstock. I gave them water and nutrients. I dug out the weeds and shoot off the pests. In all my centuries, my greatest achievement was a kind of tree that bore 58 types of fruit. that never went dormant and always flourished with flowers and leaves every day of every season. It pollinated itself, resisted its own pests, and thrived bare rooted on rock or watered with pure acid. I had been planning to tweak its genetic code with learnings of trees from some forgotten system which grew in a vacuum to bring it a little closer to its final shape, but there was no time before we unmade ourselves. It's been a long time since then. Maybe the weeds and rot finally got the better of my tree and it died. Or maybe it's still there, just a few steps away from perfection. You know, when I stepped forward, I thought it wouldn't matter that my tree was imperfect. Since we weren't becoming a perfect being, we would make only perfect works. My failure would be destroyed, as is the way of things, and I wouldn't mind because it wasn't perfect. Well, maybe we haven't found our final shape after all, because we've made nothing but failure after failure since then. We say it is a perfect, we say it is perfect because we are perfect and we have made it and we move on. But we know it's not. Even here with the gardener's power at our fingertips, we keep getting it wrong. How can we keep getting it wrong if we're the only thing that is right? Or maybe I'm the problem. That's what we said when we cut me out. Maybe we make the perfect again and we will be right. And all of this was for nothing. But I'm still thinking about my tree. It shouldn't be because it wasn't perfect, or I wouldn't have wanted to improve it. You can't make the final shape of something any better because it's perfect already. The final shape is the answer, the only answer to the question. And there aren't any other answers because they are the final shape too, I think. I would have liked to just watch my tree grow. I
I'm
like this
loving this
book.
book so far. That's so great.
Yeah,
The like hardcore radicalization of the precursors, like to become
yeah,
the witnesses. This idea that they were all swept up, that you're going to become perfect, and therefore everything you do will thus be perfect. Everything you have done was not perfect because perfect means it has no room to improve. So cast
right.
aside everything you've ever cared about, join us, and then start making perfect things. Oh, you're not perfect? Okay, you're out.
Yeah,
And then just that final line. I think I would have liked just watching my tree grow. Like that peaceful, like just an accomplishment. It doesn't need to be perfect. That's
yeah,
that's so great. They're
yeah,
they're in a fucking cult, or I mean they were. They were in a fucking
yeah.
cult.
You know what though? There's something simple to that saying, and so like when it's kind of something that we should probably you know
You
practice
know?
more as humans because a part of our humanity is just enjoying the short time you have here in existence instead of trying to make your existence perfect. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like sometimes it's okay to just be an old man who watched this tree grow throughout his
Yep.
entire life because he enjoyed it, or whatever it was. These enjoy people go through their entire lives. Some people on this planet go through their entire lives um, not accomplishing some great feat that we would consider,
Yeah.
by like design or whatever. But to them, their carved out little existence on this planet was all they needed and was to them perfect, just because it was imperfect. It was a life that they held on to and enjoyed while they were here. And so I kind of I think that's what that last line is kind of alluding to. Is like I
Mm-hmm.
would have liked to have just watched my tree grow instead of be try
Yeah.
to
So,
be
instead of
so
doing all
focused on
this,
perfection. Yeah, yeah,
which is kind of a running theme, like with Axis from Rise of Iron, this like obsession with perfection.
yeah, yeah. Good,
I,
good,
I wonder
good
I
callback.
wonder I wonder where else that can be applied. Like the Vex
The
as
per-
well, right? They can kind of
yeah,
be
the
applied
Vex
to
are all
that.
about perfection because they know nothing else.
Yeah. Uh I was gonna tangent off on something, but it doesn't really matter. So our next entry and our next river is Styx, the main river of the underworld, separating the living from the dead. The Styx was named after the nymph of the river, a daughter of the Titans Oceanus and Tethys. The word Styx means to hate or abhor in Greek.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because the like these are kind of like the um. It's just funny because like in modern day society, with psychology and just things that we've done that would be considered modern day practices, um, for whatever. It's funny how much the people back then that were creating mythologies or writing these these stories were really on to a lot of the things that we practice today, like the five stages of grief, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just funny because like all of these things that were happening way back when, even though that they weren't really attributed the way we do them now, they
I
very
mean, what
much
if they
were onto
were?
something. Well,
What
yeah,
if what what
maybe
if what if
maybe they.
ancient Greek like looked at all this stuff as a metaphor and they're like, well, there's not actually a Tartarus and a river Styx, but like
Sure.
this is the five stages of
Yeah,
grief.
and maybe they just didn't understand the assignment,
Yeah.
and then it would spread like stupidity does. It just spreads. I'm sorry to go off on a tangent, but I was recently looking up some stuff on ancient Sumerian text because that's the oldest stuff that we have about like you know belief practices for
Hmm.
humans that exist on this planet. Like
I'm
the
pretty sure
Sumerians
Scientology
predate.
covers that.
Yeah, great. So the Sumerians predate the Egyptians,
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, it's just kind of interesting how stories and whatnot have morphed over time because they had certain things that were very similar to one in particular, which would be the Ouroboros, right?
Uh-huh.
The serpent wrapping around and eating its own tail, and
Hmm.
then the serpent, yeah, yeah. So this goes into just everywhere. And so this idea of the world snake actually is in Sumerian text as well. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting thought that
Yeah.
like they didn't call it the snake either. They actually had a word that would be similarly. Um, well, I guess they didn't have a word, but they had a perspective on the serpent as being what we would probably call a leviathan today. So it's interesting to kind of think about these real world things that might have similar connotations in Destiny lore. And because why wouldn't they? I mean, we're talking about the river Styx right now.
Yeah, it's I think it's a an interesting way to kind of handle this book because the first one Acheron was the river of woe, and now we're in the main river separating living from dead means to hate and or abhor. So
Yeah,
it's interesting to see. I feel like the first two entries kind of covered woe, like this like how do I live entry, like nothing I do is good enough. And then the second one where basically the same thing, nothing I did was good enough. And now I'm
right.
not good enough to be a part of perfection, so I was cut out as well. So I'm excited to see how this comes across. Uh,
Yeah, let's do it.
so Sticks 1. All we have ever wanted was to protect others. We understand if you do not believe that. We did not meet on the best of terms, did we? We understand your fear, your wounds, but perhaps you may yet come to understand us, to know our minds, and to accept that we only want what is best for everyone. Yes, why don't we try this again? Guardians of the Last City, protectors, custodians, defenders, wardens, you have sworn these oaths, taken these titles, but these vows of yours are not merely empty affirmations, are they? No. No, they are bulwarks against your worst natures. You know this. Whether you were there or not, you know your own history and thus your own self. You know the cautionary tales of warlords, tyrants, and an age long past. You have heard rumors of guardians who fell to their own base urges and blamed their weaknesses on the darkness. Perhaps you have entertained temptation in the small hours of the morning in the hidden corners where none would be the wiser. Perhaps once you even gave in, broke away from your vaunted vanguard and pursued vengeance to satisfy yourself and none other, blood for blood, life for death. Lie to us if you so desire, but please do not lie to yourself. A falsehood can never eclipse the truth which casts it, and we see in you the promise of something far greater still. To you who claim the mantle of guardian, we would ask a question. Why do you protect the lightless? Responsibility, compassion, duty, love, devotion. Yes, we understand these and more. Does this surprise you? Do you think we have stayed the course for countless millennia driven by hatred alone? It was love that moved us to act. Love for all the lives we knew and lost. Compassion for their suffering. Responsibility to render what aid we could. Devotion to a perfect world. You were uplifted by a force you do not and cannot understand. Granted power beyond anything your peers could dream of. And what have you done with it? You protect, you shelter and guide those weaker than yourself, watching over them on their journey and seeing them safely to harbor. If you had a chance to protect them and you refused to take it, would you not call that cowardice? Now we ask you to open your mind, broaden your horizons. Imagine that you have an option to protect them from suffering. Imagine that they can all be preserved, happy and safe and alive forever. That option awaits you. You can fulfill your duty, your calling. You need only stretch out your hand and take it. And if you decide instead to extend a fist, we have a duty too. I'm gonna say this every entry. I love this entry. My favorite one
Yeah.
is one of my favorite things to talk about, where it says, "Broke away from your vaunted vanguard and pursued vengeance to satisfy yourself and none other. Blood for blood, life for death." It's talking about Forsaken, which is repeatedly considered one of the
Yep.
best expansions, and I agree it is. And I also take it a step farther because I consider it one of our biggest mistakes. We
Yeah.
fucked up.
Yeah, I would
We
agree.
fucked up
Yeah, I would agree.
horribly in Forsaken.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
we
modern day
did.
cautionary tale.
You know, it's important to you know, to shed light on the part where they say this was done out of love, because
Hmm.
that's very much what like started this whole fiasco with the precursors, is that they saw all the suffering around them and believed that it was unnecessary, and they hated that, so they wanted to cut it away from the universe and make a perfect shape. And they basically said, we don't need to suffer. We just need silence.
Hmm.
We need to silence all this suffering, basically, and whittle it down to a perfect shape. What we view as, in your final moment, it's so weird because in the lore also they talk about how it's almost like, wherever you are in your final shape, when we basically cleave you from your existence and calcify you. If you were good, you're frozen in that way forever. If you were bad, you're frozen in that way forever, or whatever they deem imperfect and perfect, I should say, not good or bad.
Hmm.
So it's funny to me that they pretty much say, well, we want to get rid of all the suffering. However, we're whatever you are when we decide to whittle and cleave you from existence, you're going to be that way for eternity.
Yeah.
Sucks. So love or hate it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean
uh
that's actually an interesting point about it because this entry does talk a little bit about hate, but it also talks a lot about love, and it is kind of
yeah,
just like the other side of that, right? Like if Styx is to hate or abhor, it's like, well, it's the other side of that coin there. what you view as
Yeah,
hate,
and
we view
it's
as
funny too
love.
because we're almost it almost throws that there's that line in there that's almost throwaway where we're ushering people to
Hmm.
safety basically, which
Oh
is very
yeah,
similar to what yeah. So that would be considered to be like Chiron or Chiron, however you pronounce it, who
Charon.
ferries the dead across the river
Chiron was
to get
the
to the next
Minotaur.
state. No, what?
Charon. Chiron was the Minotaur.
Yeah. Charon. I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Well, no, because you said
Yeah,
Charon or Chiron, however you pronounce it, and I said it's Charon. Chiron was the Minotaur because it's two different people,
yeah, that's right.
or
Yeah,
Sharon if you prefer.
Sharon.
Yeah, I mean maybe,
Okay.
but Chiron is the Minotaur. I'm just saying, like whether it's Charon or Sharon.
Yeah. That's a lesser known character anyway. Everybody just knows it as the Minotaur, which is funny. You know the name of the Minotaur. Not a lot of people know that.
I read Percy Jackson.
Oh, I did not. Uh,
I actually don't know
what about
if Chiron was in
King
it was in Percy
King
Jackson.
Midas's son and the freaking uh what's his name? Daedalus and freaking uh,
I am
uh
blanking on Daedalus's name. Daedalus's son's name.
Icarus.
Icarus. I was gonna say
Icarus.
he's the one that flew to the sun. He's the famous one. I can't even remember his fucking name.
Yeah. Which is funny because everybody says that, and that's not exactly what happened. He didn't fly into the sun like we
Well,
all
I mean, he's
say. He
flew to the sun.
his
I'm air
Yeah,
quotes in it.
well, he flew across this river, right? And his
Uh huh.
wings were melted by the sun because he was too high in the air.
Yeah.
So he drowned. He drowned. He didn't burn up, which is
Well,
what everybody
I never
thinks.
said burned up.
No, I know. I'm
I
not saying you, but a lot of
oh okay.
people
Really?
think of a lot of people think of Icarus as being this symbol of the sun and flames when
Really?
he actually drowned.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I never really attributed him as that. I didn't know that he drowned. I thought he fell to his death.
Yeah, he fell into the river and
So yeah,
drowned
yeah. I didn't know
because
there
he was
was a
trying to get
river
across
involved.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Either way,
so sticks to
6-2.
I'm going to read it. All right. It is so very strange to live like this, to be a part of our witness, yet held apart. But it's not all bad. It was a story. I was a historian once, and I have had a very, very long time to remember. We had never before been driven back. We had never failed so utterly, stymied on all fronts by a foe who bled us for every inch of ground. They understood, perhaps better than any before or after them, what was at stake. They vowed to leave nothing undone. They knew that if we survived, they would not. They chased us to a place where we all drifted, untethered in a sea of memory. You will forgive me. This is in brackets, by the way. You will forgive me the imprecise metaphors, I hope. It is hard to describe without any words of substance, but to give it substance is to rob it of its very essence. Perhaps it will suffice to say that that place is to us as the throne worlds are to the hive. We had never before found a foe who could follow us so far. There, balanced on the blade's edge of hope, we lamented our failure. We raged against the disorder of the universe. We cursed the great wounding injustice that permeated all existence, which we so longed to correct. We wept for our sacrifices and our foe, our kind of and brave and foolish foe, stopped to offer peace, another way, a choice. So we survived, and they did not. But in that moment, I realized a dreadful truth, more dreadful even than the fact that I could even think of myself as I. When we had joined together to create our witness, we were in absolute agreement. We would have no fear, no weakness, no doubt. We would be devoted utterly to our purpose and blind to all others. Atop all the fools in the universe is our witness, the apotheosis of arrogance. The final shape exists. It must be our hand that carves it. We will accept no other answers to our question. We will never find another way. We cannot be anything but what we have made of ourselves until we are all that remains. But that time has not yet come. For you yet stand before us, you whose future holds 1,000 paths untrodden, you who seek to carry our hopes into a future our witness could not imagine. And that I will never see. We, all of us, are already dead in every way that matters. Little lights, I tell you all this to say, when the time comes, do not hesitate.
Hmm.
That's a good one because it's kind of like this warning to the ghosts that, you know, we're already dead and you need to do what you need to do when the time comes to, topple the witness, because we've been carved away. We were the part of the witness that didn't necessarily agree, yet we did because we were absorbed into it. And so there's no hope for us. You just need to use our, vacant, calcified carcasses as a weapon.
Yeah.
And that's what we did in the final moments when we usurped the witness. Technically,
Yeah.
is we went in there with the sword and we cracked them open, and
And our
then we took our ghost out and we.
yeah, it's crazy because it was like that the what was it called? That final excision that
Yeah,
was killing our ghost doing it.
yeah,
And so it's
yeah,
interesting here that you have this entry, like as the members of the witness are like seeing the writing on the wall that they are going to lose. They're not coming out of this one. They're saying,
yeah,
little lights, I tell you all this to say, when the time comes, do not hesitate, because it probably knows that like our ghost is not going to pull through. And it's like, you gotta, this
yeah.
this
You
can't
got it.
continue.
Yeah, yeah. You got to
uh
sacrifice yourself.
I really like this entry though. I don't want to spend too much time on all the entries because I know we don't have too much time left. I want to make sure that we get through the whole book. But
Sure.
I do really like this entry because it kind of shines the light on the similarities between the witness and the conductor, where it's like the final shape is
Yeah,
real and
yeah,
it
yeah,
must
yeah,
be carved by our hand, or it must be our hands that carves it. And it's like that's kind of what the conductor's saying. It's like I want
yeah.
everyone to be happy, everyone to have exactly what they need. And it's like that's great, and I'm gonna force it on them by my means. And it's like, well, that's not great anymore.
Yeah, yeah. It's no
It's
longer so great.
yeah, it's this like absolute devotion. Oh, gross.
Yeah, makes sense
Absolute
though because
devotion
the
to their
the
cause.
echo is down in there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um. Geez, that's a long one. Oh wait, no.
Legathon.
Yeah, I was looking at Phlegathon 2.
Oh,
Because I had to add a note in Phlegathon 2 about the symbol that gets used, the intersection symbol.
oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
Phlegathon, the river Phlegathon is the river of fire and purging, which led to Tartarus. Plato described it as a stream of fire which coils around the earth and flows into the depths of Tartarus. So let's see how this is fire. Phlegathon 1.
Uh,
Let us tell you a story. Once upon a time, we had just begun to venture out into the cosmos when we met another species. This species suffered from death and disease, and we thought to offer our skills to aid them. At the time, we felt that we should be as generous with our gifts as the gardener has been to us. But more than that, we could not bear to see others suffer needlessly. Our tools were not like yours. What you call medicine, we remember as a crude butchery, a set of practices left behind long ago by our advances in all fields, but one that had once been a necessary part of all healing. We could have helped. We wanted to help. We were refused. If it had happened only once, then perhaps we might have thought it a single aberration, a flaw in the fabric of the universe. Then it happened again and again. For every species that saw the wisdom of accepting our help, 10 more refused us. Perhaps you can understand this feeling when you want to help someone, when you know you can help someone, and they say no. They say that they are afraid of you, that they do not trust you, that they envy you and would rather take your gifts for themselves, that you must help them but not their enemies, that they would rather hurl themselves and everyone along with them into suffering and strife and pain over and over, and you know that is avoidable, and you can fix this if they will just let you help them.
message.
We may think of it as a crude butchery now, but there are still times when a bone sets improperly and must be broken again to heal. This is as true for the universe as it is for a body, and the separation of the gardener's light has spread unchecked for far too long. You needn't be afraid. The creation of the final shape will not hurt at all, and then you'll be all better.
It's so cool. That last part. And then you'll be all better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Submit to the will of just finality because
Yeah,
it'll all be
that's
better.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So Phlegathon 2.
Phlegathon 2.
Timeline. Exuviation. The Eurythmias fall. Extinction. Noesis. When the creation of our witness was first proposed, we argued. As a philosopher, my voice was the one of the loudest. Such a profession may seem to you like idle luxury, but we had no lack of resource or time. We desired only purpose, and I was but one of many who sought out to find our path forward. As a people, we may have differed in our methods, but our principles were inviolate. We desired to end the universe's suffering. After many long years of debate, I felt assured that as our final shape, our witness would embody our cause. I joined my voice with the others. Our witness broke free of the confines of our minds and bodies. We left our world and followed into the gardener's wake. We met other spacefarers on our ways, but at that time, we were fixated on finding the gardener. For a long time, the hum of the universe was our only permanent company. The Eurythmia received us with open arms, a generosity few species before them had shown. They offered us light woven supplies and sang with voices that resonated through the darkness. They shared what they had and asked for nothing. They were still smiling when they showed us the source of their prosperity. At that time, we were naive. We yet believed that we alone had been blessed by the gardener, that we had been chosen. When we when the haze cleared, the gardener had fled once more, its works laid in ruins. The home we had been invited into was so much rubble, and we, our witness, stood poised over the last Eurythmia. I remember how they looked at us, not with rage or hate or bitterness, their smile, peaceful and accepting, the last notes of their song embracing us even in their death throes. In the chorus of our witness, my whisper was almost lost, but such is the nature of our witness that even the quietest voice may be heard by all. What we have done. Oh, wait, what have we done? These are in brackets, by the way, so different voices. The gardener's corruption has suffused this place. It must be purged. What have we done? What was necessary. We are liberation from chaos, the relief from pain, the end of suffering. What we have done is necessary. 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 This needless violence, this sick, hateful jealousy, necessary. I screamed and raged until our witness cut me free. Our witness is deaf to my fury. To us, I am a temporary defect, a minor imperfection created by an unsteady hand wielding tools for the first time. I may be a mistake, but so is our witness. I feel the destruction we have wrought as an open wound. It cannot heal. It will never heal. In our pursuit of the end of suffering, we have become its harbinger. Millions of voices, silenced forever, 1,000 worlds in ashes. The, the multitudinousness sees incarnadine. Our final shape is built atop a mountain of corpses. Destroy our witness, end our madness.
So, would you classify those last two entries as fire?
Yeah, I guess they want to. There's a lot of burning passion in that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of heat coming from these dissenters,
Yeah, yeah,
and I get
pretty
it,
good.
man. Like you got sold on the lie, and it's just like
Yeah,
here's the truth of it, and it's fucking rough, buddy.
yeah. I like, there's more references to song and chorus and music and all that
Hmm.
shit.
Yeah, so the eurythmia is obviously a species, right? And I didn't really know that word, so I had it looked up here. And eurythmia is a movement art that uses gestures to express speech and is used in performance, education, and anthroposophic medicine. Uh, but so as a species, I thought it was interesting, because it mentions how, uh, when the witness stood poised over the last of the eurythmia, I remember how they looked at us, not with rage or hate or bitterness, their smile peaceful and accepting, the last notes of their song embracing us even in their death throes. And
Yeah, it's pretty
so,
cool.
if eurythmia is a movement art with gestures to express speech, and I think at the beginning it also mentioned, uh similar, that's how they kind of, yeah, received us with open arms, generosity few species before them had shown. They offered us light woven supplies, saying with voices that resonated through the darkness, things like that. uh it's just interesting
Sure.
way to
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
describe them.
one of the roots of it is harmonious rhythm. So it's kind of
Yeah,
like, yeah, this beauty and harmony that was just, it didn't give a shit. It was like, we're good. Come kill us, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, but I feel like that's kind of coping. No, they
Yeah,
weren't.
maybe.
No, they weren't happy
Maybe.
about it. What the fuck is wrong with you? Holy shit.
Yeah.
uh So our next entry and our next river is the Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, where souls are bathed when choosing to be reborn,
Yeah.
which is an interesting concept. Uh,
It is.
that
Well, you
it's
have to
like,
forget your former life to move on to the next.
yeah, exactly. So it's like it's reincarnation. Your soul is reused, but it's effectively a new soul because it's been cleansed.
So it's kind of like guardian ghost, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Lethe starts with the letter L, and so does the light.
Okay.
And starts with the letter E, which comes after D, which is darkness.
And L stands for left. And if
Yeah.
you take three lefts, it makes a right.
Oh, yeah, it does. I had to think about it. That was a head scratcher. We're
Uh,
we're uh we're blowing minds today at Loose Cannon.
let's go.
So, Lethe, there is something wrong with me. I should not have a me. I should be we. I should be. Jesus. But there's
Yeah.
something wrong with me, and I am not we. There are many things I remember that are not. I remember tending an allotment in a faraway system. I remember carving statues and guiding vines across trellises. I remember painting on a planetary scale. I remember watching the animals take their first shaky steps. I remember the flash and retort of plasma cannons. I remember that I failed. Our witness does not remember this. We cannot remember something we are incapable of doing. That's why I am me and not we. I remember my friend who comforted me as I wept in the wreckage of my life's work, my friend who flew a thousand light years to see me, my friend who tried in vain to break me from the consensus, my friend who begged me to flee. I'm so excited about this. My friend who I sent away with bitter recriminations. I wish I did not remember this, but I already do not remember a great deal about them. I do not wish to lose any more. My friend, are you still out there? Do you still wander the cosmos? Do you still watch the stars at night? Did you escape our witness's ruinous advance? When our witness brings the final shape into being, will you too be trapped in its amber? I should celebrate the thought. The final shape is perfect, unchanging, eternal. You will be as you should be forever. I just feel sad. So I'm annoyed at myself for having just closed one of our previous notes. I gotta open it now. And what did I do?
This one is a lot like somewhere out there. It's like that Disney song where they're talking about we're under the same sky, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting there wondering what happened to you,
So,
all that.
do you recognize who this entity, this precursor is?
No.
I'm trying to find if they had anything specific that I could make it easily drawn to. But I'm pretty sure these are the two precursors from the IntelliG lore book, which is the collector's edition lore book of the final shape. So from
Oh, cool.
pages 6 to 13, it's a communications log between RS6 and HNW, as we referred to them as. And RS6 saying we mustn't abandon the path to the final shape simply because it is difficult. And then HNW replies, difficult, you are being willfully obtuse. Difficult might describe a sustained effort or self-denial done with intent and care for one's well-being. What you are describing is coercion. So it's my friend who comforted me as I wept, my friend who I sent away with my friend who begged me to flee. You have this back and forth between them where one is like full in on joining the witness, and the other is like, no, you should
Oh yeah, I
not,
remember this lore.
you should
Yeah.
not be. This is not the way to go about it. And there's previous entries, I believe, where they talked more kindly just about like what they were growing. And it's yes, I can see now the path to the summit pyramidian final shape. Here at the Matreta blade leaves the grass queen progenitor material to seed 100 worlds, never mind five. So like this is HNW talking about how they're doing the planetary scale. I remember painting on a planetary scale. I remember watching the animals take their first shaky steps. I remember the flash and retort of plasma cannons. That's kind of getting away from it. Where flash and retort of plasma cannons goes down later when they talk about how they killed the other factions that were like fighting for control of the precursors.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's in this. Yeah, the witnesses precursors. This is where it was. That's why it wasn't on that's why it wasn't on Ishtar, because they don't put the collector's editions on Ishtar.
Oh.
This is where we got the official name precursors. So it's really cool that you start with the collector's edition and you end with H&W from the collector's edition here. Although you don't end because there's still, you know.
Yeah. You know.
you know. And
You know.
so you're saying wasn't a river.
It was what happened after the river, and so like it's not even a part of the mythology from what I was reading here, but I believe it does have a significant importance because it, it's Dante's Divine Comedy where I heard it from first,
Mhm.
but it was a part of the same rivers that they describe in Greek mythology and all that were used in Dante's Divine Comedy because as you go through the nine rings of hell, you have to cross these same rivers of the dead in one
Mhm.
particular part, which is, the Cocytus or Cocytus, however
Cocytus.
you want to pronounce it, and which was the lake, right? The lake of the Cocytus, right? Like, so the nine rings of hell, this is that one particular river. How do I remember? Oh, let me just look it up real quick because I know exactly what it means, but I don't want to butcher it. Okay, so yeah, it's technically the river of the dead. So it would
Mhm.
be like um, Cocytus was described as a lake rather than a river, but
Yeah, frozen lake of
you
ice
know,
containing various
you know,
craters.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so left Lethe and they're kind of they kind of go together. One purges your memory of your sins, and then the enhances your memory of those good things that you accomplished. Right?
Okay.
I think. Okay, so I'll read it. You
Yeah.
know, despair, doubt, sentimentality, weakness. We are above such aberrations. We are the witness. We are the first knife who cuts free the final shape. We have found the only answer to the only question. We are all that we were, are, and will ever be. We alone understand the meaning of eternity. We are perfect. We have no flaws. We will overcome this last futile resistance, and we will do this properly. And then we will be as we have always been. We will have no dissenters, and therefore we will have no dissenters now. We need more light, just a little more light. We will bend the gardener's misbegotten tools to our will. We are almost there. We will reach for the final shape, and we can close our fist around it. We will provide the lie of the gardener's claim. We will prove the lie of the gardener's claim. We will refute its right to exist. We will give this universe the order it so desperately craves. We will make it right. We will save you all by annihilating and
Yeah, no,
destroying
so
and
this is so
wiping it clean.
interesting because
Delete.
this is
Control, Alt, Delete.
this line here. We need more light, just a little more light. We will bend the gardener's misbegotten tools to our will. It's kind of feeling like they were trying to pull off the final shape, and like they were doing it right. They were like what's the word? They were calcifying things like kind of in
Yeah,
pulses. Everyone calcified for a moment, but they couldn't stay that way. They kind of broke out of it. Uh which was an awesome
yeah,
cutscene
absolutely.
from Final Shape.
Yeah,
That was fucking wild. Um Terrifying as well. To think that actually happened. Uh this kind of makes it sound like the witness was never going to succeed. The witness never could have created the final shape. The final shape itself was flawed. And that kind of goes back to, I think it was the second entry, where they said ever since they did this, they've been doing nothing but fucking up. They didn't say it. They didn't say it in such words, but they said like they became the witness to be perfect, but everything they've done since has been flawed. And it's like,
yeah,
is the final shape also flawed? Has literally everything been wrong since they became the witness?
yeah. I like that some accept the fact that they may have not been um, true to the fact that they were to exist as the final shape
Yeah.
themselves because they themselves were flawed. You know, that's come up in the lore a little bit where some of these precursors slash minds of the witness kind of acknowledge the fact that we've been screwing up for so long that how could we possibly be, you know, the
Hmm.
final shape or a part of it.
I like that the final entry here is a not dissentered voice, not a non-dissenter voice, and it's like kind of saying like we will save you. It's someone who's like still like, and I like that line where it says we need more light, just a little more light, and they're saying we will save you all, and it's like so they're right on that cusp of realizing why they're wrong, but
Yeah,
they haven't crossed the threshold yet. Where every other entry was a dissenter who has crossed or is crossing, like in Lethe, where they're like, but I just feel sad. Like they haven't like fully gotten there, but they're like, no, this isn't right. Like they are
yeah,
effectively a dissenter now, but they haven't realized they're a dissenter. And then this one, like they're realizing the final shape doesn't work. The final shape's not gonna happen, but we're still gonna do it. They're still like we're gonna do it. We're
we have
still
to do
gonna
it.
win.
We have to
Yeah,
now. We're all in. Fuck
yeah,
it.
we're all in. But they have the evidence in front of
Uh,
them that it's not enough, that it can't succeed, and they're still like, we're gonna save you, we're gonna do it,
yeah,
because they can't cope with the idea that everything they've done led to nothing, because they've
yeah.
done some fucking horrible shit.
Yeah. And it's always been that like that last remark. It's always been we just need a little bit more. We just need a
Yep.
little bit more. We just need a little bit more. And then
And
they're here on the precipice and they still need a little bit more. And it's
yeah,
like one guy's like, this ain't gonna work.
yeah,
We'll
they
never have
achieved
enough, little bit more. Yeah.
they achieved everything they acquired everything they set out to acquire, and it wasn't enough because it would never be
Yeah.
enough.
It will never be enough. And that is Ayat.
I I wish IOT is one of those concepts that just always eluded me. And no matter how many times I've had it explained to me, ways it's how many different ways it's been explained, I cannot wrap my head around it. It's kind of embarrassing.
It's okay. It'll break your brain one day. You'll figure it out.
But I
The
just feel
easiest way.
sad.
Well, that's okay. Some people taste cilantro and it tastes like soap, but they're
Yeah,
okay.
bell peppers taste like gasoline to me.
What?
Have I never told you that?
Uh-uh.
People, people always tell me I'm crazy when I say that. Bell peppers taste like gasoline. Like
Ugh,
when
I hate bell
when
peppers.
you
That's the
when you
freaking
smell
bane of
gasoline.
all
Yeah.
vegetables. Ugh.
Like when you smell gasoline because like that drop that like falls out after filling up your car, like that smell in my head, the receptors, it's correlated with the
Yeah.
taste of bell peppers.
Yeah, that drop costs you like $5 nowadays. Every time I drop the gas at the
You get
pump,
back
I'm
in
like,
there.
damn it.
It's siphoning it up with the straw.
Yeah. We did it, Anon. We made
We
it through
did
the
it.
show.
Look at that. A whole book in one episode. You never would have thought it was us.
Yeah. Here we are.
Here we are. So our next episode is going to be on October 20th. Uh, we don't know what our next episode is going to be at this moment in time, but there are more books. I really like doing the books. We might do a book. We might do an act one. Um, when's Festival of the Lost? Has that been
I
announced?
don't know. They haven't announced it. It should be right
Interesting.
now, right? It should be coming up
Yeah,
next week or something.
usually it's the 3 weeks leading up to Halloween. So actually, no, it shouldn't be right now. It should be the 15th to the 5th. The 15th to the 4th. Oh no, the 22nd to the 4th, right? One, two. No. The 15th was correct. So we should get the teaser for it at least. We should see what's going on with it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have an episode on the 20th. We'll be back right here. If you want to find us, we've put out the podcast everywhere. Everywhere has just gone down because all of my podcast apps are gone now, and I don't really want to use Spotify for podcasts. So if you find a way to listen to us or watch us, we really appreciate it. We hope you had a good time. We hope you've enjoyed our antics as always. We'll be back with more in just 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.